I managed not to cry or shout. So for that, I'm proud of myself because I wanted to do both many, many times. I'm so upset because this just means it's just more of a fight. Hi guys, Ree from mummyoffour.com here. Today I am starting a vlog which will span over the coming however long it takes, where I'm going to document our journey for my daughter Zara and her autism assessment. So a very brief history about what has brought us to this point, but if you want a more in-depth look at my family history with all this and our journey up to this point with my other children, I have got a whole playlist I will drop below, so please check that out after you've seen this video. But in a nutshell, I have 4 children. My second child was diagnosed with autism when he was nearly 4. My third child, my eldest daughter, was diagnosed just after she turned 5, and my son and my daughter are very, very different. But my youngest daughter, Zara, is very, very similar to my daughter Bella, who does have a diagnosis. So at the time where Bella was having her diagnosis, I said, look, Zara will be coming through very soon. They're very, very similar. So I will speak to the health visitor. I will get her referred and then look out for a name coming through because she's going to need to be assessed too. Then COVID hit. Now, where we live, I don't know what it's like where you live. When they are under 5, they are under the health visitor and they get assessed through the medical side. And then when they are over 5, they're handed over to education and the education system, which is ridiculously slow, talking years and years and years here, for any form of assessment. So I felt very strongly that my children got assessed because I got it all started, I got it all kicked off long before they were 5 for all of them. But anyway, COVID happened. The whole world shut down just after Zara's 3rd birthday because she'd only started school a few weeks before. And obviously then I couldn't get in front of a health visitor to get her referred because they need to see a health visitor, they need to do a few little tests and things just so they've got some evidence to refer them on. So it took a really long time to get this paperwork filled out for the referral, even though I'd already spoken to the consultant that she would eventually be referred to. I've just been to see this doctor. It wasn't the main consultant, it was another doctor under the team for Zara's first appointment. I thought, great, there we go, let's get started. I don't mind how long it takes as long as they are going to be the ones that do it. So they did the weighing her and measuring her, they asked for history and things, and then the very lovely doctor said, well, the thing is, because she was referred after 4.5, she was actually referred after 4, but not after 4.5. I kind of figured that out since coming away. But because she was referred after 4.5, we're going to pass her over to the education side. To which I just replied, no, she's going to be assessed here because not having her palmed off onto a system that is slow and clunky where she will not get the assessment and therefore the help that she potentially needs because of COVID. You might be able to detect I am slightly enraged about this. I was not expecting this fight. I thought they'd just assess her, but they just seem to be saying, oh, because of COVID, we're passing everyone off a bit sooner. I'm just so angry and so upset that because of COVID that they're potentially trying to not give her the assessment that I feel that she needs. I said about 5 times during the appointment that I feel it would be negligent if they didn't assess her, especially considering the family history, and she's like a carbon copy of her sister. And I just feel like my others have been able to thrive in school because they've been able to be understood, because they've been assessed, and now we can access the help that they need. And it just makes me just so upset and so angry and so exhausted that this is going to be a fight. And I think if you are a parent of a child who you've ever tried to get any kind of assessment for additional learning needs, anything like that, you'll be familiar with the fight and just how exhausting it is and how it's just not easy at all. I think I was just a bit blindsided. I just wasn't expecting them to say, no, off you go, and for me to have to go, no. So I'm glad I said no. I'm glad I've stuck up for myself and for my daughter, because maybe if it was my first child, not my 4th, I wouldn't have felt so comfortable being so forceful with it. But right now I just feel like crying because it's going to be a battle. So this very lovely doctor has said she will speak to the other consultant who diagnosed Bella for me and she'll get back to me. My plan is to not let this go and to keep pursuing it and to insist that they do what I feel is important they do, what I feel it is their obligation to do and their duty of care to do, which is to give her the assessment to see what her needs are, if there are any, and if there are not any additional needs and she's just neurotypical, fine. And if she has additional needs and she is on the spectrum, I just need to know what I'm dealing with so I can get her the help that she needs. Just why does it have to be such a fight? It's a few days later and I've just had another phone call from the doctor that I saw. It's not great news. She had a conversation with the consultant that assessed Bella, and they said that they didn't want to assess Zara because they didn't see enough evidence in that few minutes that they saw her in person. So again, I said, no, I'm going to need you to assess. I'm going to need you to go back and discuss this again until you come back with the right answer. I'm just finding this so exhausting. I wasn't expecting this to be a battle. I don't know why I wasn't expecting this to be a battle. It seems to be when you've got any issue with a child with additional learning needs, there always seems to be a battle. There just never seems to be straightforward. But I think because they had accepted her in and because she had an appointment, I thought they'd be saying, yeah, fine, we'll just assess her. That's the natural next stage. 2 of your children already have autism. She's presenting the same way as her sister. It seemed like a no-brainer. But when they went halfway through that appointment, and Dan getting really cross about this, when they went halfway through that appointment, they bothered to weigh her and measure and do all those things. And then they were like, actually, we're going to bump her over to education. It was really annoying. So I was expecting them to speak to this other consultant and then come back with, yeah, it's fine. We'll put her on the waiting list for an actual assessment. And I even said, look, guys, I don't mind if you don't assess her yet, as long as you promise to keep her within your, under your remit, under your care, and you will be the ones that assess her. Even if it doesn't happen for a while, it's still going to be a damn sight quicker than going through education. And under the new system, from what I can gather, having spoken to her teachers, then she sort of wouldn't qualify because she's not enough of a problem child in school to be assessed in school. So yet again, I'm feeling utterly, just like screaming. I'm going to get these forms that I've been given filled out, that the school have to fill out for me. I did speak to Zara's teacher this morning for like a parent-teacher conference thing that they're doing over the phone, mostly because of COVID. And she said that she is showing a lot of flags, difficulties, signs. There's lots of evidence anyway that will be going into those forms of evidence of difficulties that would be indicative of ASD. Things that they've seen already, and she's only been in that class a few weeks. So I will keep you updated, but I'm just feeling kind of like screaming at the moment. It just shouldn't have to be so much of a fight, should it? It just shouldn't be flipping difficult to just get your children the help that they need so they can be understood, so that you can access them the support that they need when they need it. And it does seem to be a bit of a battle. Well, I've just got off the phone from the consultant, the one that saw Zara in that initial meeting that I talked about earlier in the vlog. I'd asked them to go back to this meeting that they have every month to discuss whether they would assess her, and that meeting was yesterday. And she's just said that she's not been accepted for assessment. And I just said, this is ridiculous. This is so negligent. You had more evidence on the paperwork, because I found Bella's paperwork. You had more evidence that I sent in for Zara than for Bella, and you assessed Bella and she came out with high levels of autism. And I just feel it would be downright negligent not to assess Zara, just because I feel like they're trying to thin down their caseload because of bloody COVID. I'm so upset because this just means it's just more of a fight. And if she's fobbed off into the school system, she's not going to be seen for years and years and years. She won't access the support she needs. And maybe there's something there, maybe there's not, but she deserves the same opportunities as her siblings. And so I said, I cried on the phone, and I said it just would have been easier to assess it, just because I'm not going to be going away. I'm not going to stop complaining about this. It's just so exhausting to have to fight it all the time. I'd calmed down a little bit since we last spoke. I ended up speaking to the receptionist in the place where we go for the assessments, the same place that assessed William and Bella, and the place that is supposed to be assessing Zara. And this lovely receptionist has set up a meeting for me on Thursday of this week so that I can speak to the head of the department, same lady that assessed Bella, put my case to her. At least that's what I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping she is going to listen to me and she's going to make an assessment whether Zara should be assessed based on what I'm saying, and that this meeting isn't just for her to explain to me why they're not going to assess her. So this is their last opportunity to just assess Zara, to listen to me, to know that as her mother, I know what I'm talking about. This is not my first experience with autism, and that they need to assess her. And if not, we're going to have to escalate these complaints. I did a live a couple of days ago, which is over on my Instagram. I've saved this kind of autism journey on a little highlight over there. I was just inundated with comments from families of just everyone's having to fight so hard. I just feel like something needs to be done. I don't know what that is. I know more awareness needs to be raised. Maybe some sort of petition, something high up needs to be done to fix this situation, because people shouldn't be being ignored. People shouldn't be having to fight so hard. It's wrong. It's not right. It's exhausting for families. And ultimately, if children are going undiagnosed and not getting the help that they need, there's going to be a higher burden on other services, adult services, mental health services. Really, early intervention is so important. So I'm not quite sure what needs to be done. I know something needs to be done. I feel I need to be involved in whatever that is. I need to figure out what that is and get it done, because it's not acceptable. It's time to go to the meeting, and I must admit, I feel positively sick. It's that feeling, and if you are a parent that's ever had to fight for your child for anything, you will know this feeling, that feeling of dread, because you know there is a battle coming. So if you've ever had to battle with school or doctors or anyone to get anything in place that your child needs, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it's just that sick, anxious, you don't know what's coming, you know it's really important, but you don't know how it's going to turn out, you don't know what you're going to be faced with. I have printed out all of the forms that I filled in for Zara, the equivalent forms I filled in for Bella, just to prove that there's more evidence for Zara than for Bella. I've got mental notes, I've got notes in my phone, but my brain just feels all jumbled because I've just been awake all night worrying about it. So wish me luck. It's time to go. I guess I'll feel better after it, whatever happens, because at least I'll know. We've just got home from the meeting and I feel utterly numb and drained. It was an hour and a half. I'm gonna have to log off for a moment and pick up the camera again tomorrow to explain it, because I just can't even process the thing at the moment. So it's the next day. I've had not what I would call a good night's sleep, but I have slept. So I'm a little calmer, a little more clear-headed than I was yesterday. Not a great deal, but a little. So I was wondering, was the purpose of the meeting to hear me out? And the very first thing they did was hear me out. And then they did what I thought might have been the purpose of the meeting, which was just try to explain to me why they weren't going to assess my daughter. So I feel like they wanted me to feel like I'd been heard before they told me that I was wrong and this is what they were going to do. So I was very upset in the meeting. I managed not to cry or shout. So for that, I'm proud of myself, because I wanted to do both many, many times for lots of reasons. So the reasons they gave for not wanting to assess her are initially that doctor, who they admitted was a junior doctor, did not see any signs of autism in the room. Now, that infuriated me, because the very small amount of interaction that she had with Zara, she did line things up. But other than that, she said that she showed social smiles, she showed joint attention, and she used eye contact. Now, if you read Bella's ADOS assessment report, which was the actual report where she was diagnosed with autism, that report said that Bella did all of those things and still received a diagnosis. So to say that just because she did those things, there's no autism there, I think is ridiculous and a snap judgment. And I did ask that perhaps this doctor receive a bit more training on autism in girls. And I said that I didn't feel she'd done her job properly. They pulled me up on that. They said they didn't think that was fair, and they have to give junior doctors a chance and they've got to learn somehow. I said I didn't feel like my child should be penalised because she wasn't fully trained, and they said, no, it's not that she's not fully trained, but I bet you any money there is more training on autism in girls in that department following our little discussion yesterday. So that was the first issue they had. I said, well, how come Bella was assessed then? They said, oh, they did see some evidence in the room during that initial meeting. I seem to remember there being a bit of not wanting to assess Bella either, and I'm glad they did. Obviously, she came out with a diagnosis. And I just want to kind of reiterate, I did say this in a live that I just did over on my Instagram, and I'm going to say it again now. I don't mind if she comes out with a diagnosis or without a diagnosis. I just want to assess so that I know how best to help my child, exactly how her mind works and how I can help her, and which things I need to access to help her, and how I can best parent her, and just so I can do my best for her. Anyway, that was one reason. They also said there wasn't enough evidence from the school. Now, it was like a tick chart, does she do this? Sometimes, always, never. And there were lots of, yes, she does lots of these things. But the school hadn't written essays and essays. They'd written a couple of sentences. So, first of all, school teachers are busy. Just, to put it out there, any school teachers out there, I'm sure can back me up on this one. But secondly, I think the main point is Zara had only been in the class for something like 4 weeks when that was filled in. And I'm sure any early years teacher will tell you the first few weeks of a reception class are just, I'm sure it's chaos. I mean, 34-year-olds just trying to get them all settled, learn their names, figure out how they all are, how they're doing. You're not going to notice every little thing, loads and loads of things within those first 4 weeks. It's very much a bedding in period, especially after COVID, and they're all taking long to settle. Since that form has been filled in, the school has given me loads of evidence over the phone, in person, has brought up lots of things that have happened, lots and lots of their concerns. So I said, look, can we just do that form again? I mean, first of all, actually, what I said was, can we do that meeting again? I wanted to do that first meeting again with that doctor, the junior doctor I didn't have a lot of faith in, who was perfectly polite, but quite frankly, I don't think did a very good job in that room of making a judgment based on what we know about girls with autism. But that's another matter. Anyway, I asked, can I have a second opinion? Can we redo that bit? And they said no. Basically, they said they weren't going to go against their doctor. They weren't going to go against what she saw in the room. And I wasn't very happy with that at all. But they said no, they were not going to do a second opinion on that. So that is what it is. They've refused to move on that one. I have said, can we redo this form from the school? And they said, yes, if there is more evidence. I said, well, there is more evidence. I've got a big list of it here, but it wasn't in the right format. So we're doing the form again. I've taken it, I'm taking it later to the school to be filled in. The school have got lots and lots to put on there since the last form was filled in. So what they've said is if this form comes in and there's lots of evidence on it, they will discuss it as a team. And if there is enough evidence to proceed with further assessments, they will. So they won't redo the thing in the room and go against the doctor. So I'm pretty sure they don't want to give in to me just because I'm kicking off. But equally, I believe, although it's not what they said, that they saw that I had a point. So I'm hoping that when this new evidence is presented to them, they can do what I know needs to be done, which is give my child this assessment, because I believe wholeheartedly that with the family history and the evidence that there is, that she needs this assessment, just so we know where we stand and we know how best to help her. I'm hoping they can give us this assessment without losing face. And I think that's the best outcome for everybody. And it'll mean we won't have to escalate these things to all sorts of complaints, because they said they don't want to do something just because they're threatened with complaints. But equally, I'm pretty sure they don't want complaints. And I'm really not just kicking off for no reason. I'm doing this because I believe in my heart that this is what needs to be done. I feel I would be negligent as her mother, with all the family history and things considered, not to insist that she has this assessment. So she needs this assessment, and then if she comes out as having autism, we'll deal with that. If she comes out as neurotypical, then we'll deal with that. It'll all be fine. I just need to know that I've done my bit, because I don't think I will feel like I've done what I can for her as her mother if I let this slide. They've said that they are trying to thin down their caseload because they've got more of a caseload because of COVID, and I understand that's a burden under the whole NHS, but I genuinely feel if children are not assessed when they need an assessment and an early intervention is not put in place, then there will be more of a burden financially on the system. As they get older, they're going to have extra needs, mental health needs, extra educational needs, and just it breaks my heart that children are not going to receive the help that they need. It just breaks my heart. So I didn't really come out with a definitive answer of anything. I thought I was going to come out with either right, they'll assess it, or okay, we're in for a fight now. And we're into a kind of still in a limbo stage of if there's enough evidence on this form, then they'll assess her. I hope that they can be unbiased and then they're not going to just dig their heels in because they don't want to give in to me. I hope that's not the case. I really hope that's not the case. I just hope that they are able to do what is right for my child. Do you know what the most annoying thing is though? We spent an hour and a half in that meeting yesterday. An hour and a half where they were paying a top consultant plus a manager that they had in the room that would have been better use of that time. Assess my child. Well, it is January. Happy New Year. I have news regarding Zara's assessment. Perhaps not great news, but it's not dreadful news either. Just before Christmas, having harassed this poor secretary, almost daily. I finally managed to get some sort of sense about what is going to happen. So we got the forms submitted from the school. There was lots of evidence on there. Apparently they had their chat. There is a letter coming out to me that is ready for dictation, but at the time I spoke to them, which was just before Christmas, the letter would not be coming out to me until well into the new year, because it had to be typed up and then it had to be sent back to the consultant to be signed before it could be sent out to me, and she was going to be on leave till mid-January. So I'm giving you this information from what I've scrapped on the back of a post-it note. Basically, they're not going to assess Zara in the place where I was asking for her to be assessed, but they're not turfing her totally back to school to start from scratch either, because my concern was they'd say, right, we're not assessing her in the under 5 section. She can be turfed back to the school system. The school would then, and they've said this to me, that she's not enough of a problem child for them to be able to put her forward. Although they feel she has needs and they feel that there probably is some autism there, the policy is now where things can be managed within school, which at the moment, at age 5 in reception, they can be. The policy is not to bother to put children forward for assessment. So unless she's literally climbing the walls and upsetting other children, she wouldn't be getting assessment from the school's point of view, which isn't their fault. It's a policy thing and it stinks, but there we go. Anyway, so that's what I was worried about. The compromise they've come up with is they've passed Zara over to the ND team, the neurodevelopmental team, but her referral has been accepted by this ND team. So the school will be involved in that they'll have to fill out paperwork and things, which is great and they're more than happy to do, but they don't have to be involved in doing that fight that I was worried about getting her accepted for referral. So the referral has been accepted. Now I know the system is slow and clunky, but I can kind of live with it as long as I know she will be assessed. The referral has been accepted and she has been accepted onto their waiting list at the same point that she joined the under 5 waiting list, if that makes sense. So the same date that she did join the original waiting list, she's like held that place in the over 5s waiting list. So although it's not the result that I was going for, I wanted them to just assess her where they were, I think I feel comfortable with it. My worst fear was that she was just never going to get any form of assessment. Obviously that was the biggest concern of mine, and now she will be assessed. It might not be that quickly, but that's fine, because I feel that, yes, the teacher who she's got at the moment is managing reasonably well at the moment, and I don't need the assessment for today. I need it to be able to access things as her needs grow, because as she's 5 and I've got a really good relationship with that class teacher, we can cope between us. Her needs will get greater as she gets older. She's with teachers that I'm not as familiar with, that don't know the family as well. Because bear in mind, this teacher that Zara's got that's teaching her now has already taught William, she's taught Bella, she knows my children really, really well. So she's able to manage Zara really well. So I need to know that I'm able to put things in place as she gets older, and specifically strategies in place as things get trickier socially and definitely going into secondary school, because I know William and Bella will have that opportunity. And if Zara needs it, and yeah, if she's neurotypical, then she doesn't need it, then fine. But I need to know that as her mother, I've done all I can to get it checked. So I think I'm happy with that. It's not exactly the outcome I was looking for, but she will be assessed at some point. So I guess I have to be happy with that. So I hope you found this informative or at very least relatable. If it's made someone else going through something similar feel a little less alone, then that's a win. Please make sure you're subscribed with bell notifications on, because I will be doing future vlogs to update on how the assessment process is going when we kind of get underway with it all, how long it all takes, and obviously the final outcome. Let me know in the comments if there are any specific videos you'd like to see about autism, or any specific questions that you would like answered, because obviously I'm happy to make those videos for you. Make sure you check out the playlist of videos I've already made about autism and about the journeys of getting the others assessed, so hopefully those will be helpful to you too. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do give it a thumbs up and turn on bell notifications once you've subscribed, because it really, really helps the channel. I shall see you guys very soon in another video.